Nostalgia. Grandma's home-baked cookies, the super convoluted secret method of finding special features on the Harry Potter DVD, which is your first epic gamer moment. The department store where you had your last photo with Santa because you asked him what you wanted for Christmas and he said, Pokémon Rumble you sick freak. The soundtrack of Persona 4. Hit it, baby. Hold up.
TV? I'm going to be on TV?
Chill. All it takes is one game that captivated you as a kid, or one fond memory of having beaten a level that seemed impossible to you, for that nostalgia to become weaponized by modern developers. It's how long-running franchises stay afloat, even when their last few main entries have been stale, and why there is such an abundance of remakes these days. Look at Capcom. They have reinvented the Resident Evil series with 7 and 8, but instead of taking that risk full on, they are supporting the longevity of the series by releasing remakes of old games. Remakes, sequels, remakes of sequels. Hell, Borderlands even managed to make a pre-sequel. How the hell did we let them get away with this? So where does Pokemon come into this saturated market norm? Well, nostalgia, which is bold and underlined for some reason and growing. Why is it growing? Hey! Okay. So, nostalgia. Yeah, it's ruined Pokemon for all of us. And if you don't agree, then I'm sorry, they've gone to you. Pokémon is the biggest media franchise by a ridiculous margin. They even got Mickey, bro. They beat Mickey, bro. Pokémon fever has gripped the world ever since it hit shelves in 1996, and its influence has only grown. From internet culture to worldwide conventions, from the induction of each next generation of kids to the adults who have been around for decades. It's Pikachu's world. We're all just living in it. And I'm okay with that. I love Pokemon. Since I first fully completed Pokemon Gold, I've played every single Pokemon game. Mostly. Black and White and Black and White 2 are the best games Game Freak has ever made. It adds the most new Pokemon in the series, changes the gameplay completely by creating a semi-3D open world that gives it a bigger scope than any previous title, but retains the iconic pixel style of the last couple of generations, and it takes away every other region's Pokemon until after you've beaten the game, bringing the Gen 5 Pokemon front and center during the main experience, and creating a larger post-game for completionists, and one that is even more rewarding for fans of previous titles. Oi, go away. And this might come as a shock to new fans, but these games actually had a story, a good one, with some of the most compelling plot elements in any Nintendo game. N is one of the most interesting characters in the Pokemon franchise. A villain who isn't evil for no reason, but got brainwashed by his own father into having a messiah complex to save all Pokemon, while inadvertently supporting a team that harms people in the places they travel to. So what gaming characters do you follow up with after having such a unique style of game that actually changes one of the most tired formulas ever? Oh. Don't get me wrong, later titles have done some cool things, and well, I'm still here, aren't I? I watch every single Full Swipe Gaming video as he talks about some obscure ass Pokemon I have no reason to care about. And that's nostalgia, keeping you and me complacent in a franchise we should not be happy with. Look at the recent games and controversies. Cutting Pokemon with the excuse of updating animations, charging $60 for every release, and probably $70 next. Worse graphics than some GameCube games.
Holy shit! This game is ass!
And making the most boring story ever. What's that? Pokemon Sword and Shield? More like freaking Sleepies. While the side games have at least an ounce of creativity, I don't think the mainline Pokemon games have the same kind of love. Now, before you take the Game Freak's defense, ask yourself, are you a Pokemon White Knight? These are the people who laugh at others for buying annual sports release games and every installment in the COD franchise, but each year do the same thing by purchasing the new Pokemon game in spite of the decrease in quality, and they buy both versions, and the expansion pass, and the body pillows. And I think for some reason, people think this is a valid argument. Pokemon is a game for kids. The only reason you liked it before and don't like it now was because you played it when you were a kid. But that completely ignores my criticisms of the scummy practices of making kids pay a subscription for online content and overcharging for unpolished, underdeveloped games, from which the endgame content has been siphoned and repackaged and priced as DLC. Gone are our days of Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, a free-to-play eShop title that had DLC, which Nintendo encouraged the player to haggle for, and thus pay the least amount possible. Yes, this is a real thing. Trust me, look it up. It's really funny. Rated E means everyone, and no one can call Pokemon just a kid's game. So let's talk about another franchise that's owned by the same freaking company. Yes, it's a me, Mario. Mario games are the perfect example to show that yes, these games can be enjoyed by kids, but can be played by every age group. Kids love it, adults love it, your grandma loves it. It spawned 50 billion side series games that your family can play, and is subsequently time trialed and blazed by your friend Gary using tilt controls. But in spite of its kid-friendly casual exterior and its accessible approach to gaming, each entry still innovates from the last. 64 gave us one of the greatest 3D adventures and paved the way for the legendary Ocarina of Time. Galaxy took the franchise to new heights with its grand scale and smooth gameplay, and Odyssey had hats. Freaking hats! Each game takes up the core elements that make up the familiar gameplay and comforting essence of the franchise, while innovating not just the series mechanics, but the platformer genre as a whole. Now tell me with a straight face that Pokemon does even half of what Mario has done. I mean, by this point, everyone knows with every new generation, the focus isn't on creating a new cool game, but creating more merchandise to sell. Because God knows Game Freak needs more money. We need to sell new plushies, new trading cards, a new anime, new clothes, new fucking flexing Charmander statues. They even overused Ash Ketchum into ridiculous oblivion and then used his departure from the series as a massive nostalgia bait for the old fans. They lock previous gen Pokemon behind expansion passes. They recycle your past joy and resell it to you under the guise of being something new. This is the extent of the exploitation of your nostalgia, and unlike the high quality Resident Evil remakes, or the upcoming reimaginings such as Silent Hill 2 or Persona 3, which all seem to be pretty good and well made, and thoroughly thought through, these new mainline Pokemon entries suck! And these generic ass Pokemon games will probably never change, because people generally are scared of change. The developers don't want to risk compromising on what works, and the players don't want a radical change that will desecrate their nostalgic image of the franchise. But don't you see what's happening is worse? Over time, with all these dips in quality and the lack of significant improvements, Game Freak are sucking the soul out of this franchise you love, and running it with neglect. The games you're nostalgic for are the ones who boldly defied their predecessors, and took Pokemon to unthinkable new heights. The current sequels are dumbing down the integrity of the series, or ramping up the prices. Nostalgia is what keeps us hooked to the series we love. It's what makes us gamers, even after our lives flourish into busy and complex adulthood. Because those childhood experiences with all those awe-inspiring worlds at our fingertips still inform the way we view the real world today. And that's a special thing. Something that can bring us joy just by hearing a beloved soundtrack. Something that fills us with a once-forgotten childhood excitement when we hear the announcement of a long-awaited sequel or remake. But we have to be careful. The nostalgia and the exploitation thereof it is what leaves us settling for mediocrity, which slowly chips away at a once magical franchise.